Rashi this week in the Pasha Im Seif Se'ez. So Rashi only says Kitargima Pshita. It doesn't say what it means. And Rashi and Targum says that Tishboy, that he will be, Hashem will forgive him. On the Blat we had by the Nai God and Nairivan. So Rashi says the Sa'ais like Masas like a Matun. So Yosy says he wonders why David didn't say.
I can't remember everything.
You're jet lag.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see the Mishnah. Ha'omer li'isha, haret mekudeshes li, al menash shadaber alecha l'sholtain. I'll speak positive on your behalf to the ruler. I guess it would provide her with some type of benefit, give her a good reference, right? Or ve'esa imcha kepoil. Or I'll do work for you. I'll do some work for you. I'll fix the fence in your backyard. Or I'll fix your sink or whatever it is. I'll do work for you. So what if he fulfills what his Tanai was? Diber alel l'sholtain, or v'osima kepoil mikudeshes. V'imlav, if he doesn't fulfill it, ain't mikudeshes. So the question where you have to ask here is the Kiddushin being done with the work that he's doing? Or is the Kiddushin being done with a Shava Pruta, and the Mishnah is just discussing a Tanai? Because the Mishnah doesn't say anything about him giving her a Pruta. So Rish Lakish comes along, Amar Rish Lakish, and says, "Who should not Shava Pruta?" The only way this Kiddushin could work is only if he had given her a Shava Pruta, and this Dibur to the Shiltai, or the work that he's going to do for her, is only fulfilling a Tanai. But they would not be eligible as the Pruta itself to be Mekadesher. Are you telling me that the actual schar with which he's doing that work, so there's a value to that work, that would not be a good Kiddushin? But Tanya, we learned, if I want to be Mekadesh a lady with the value of something that I had done for her in the past. For instance, I gave her a ride on the chamor, or I helped you get into the wagon. So these are all things that he did in the past. There's Einu Mekudesh. Because surely, as Rashi says, there was already a chiyuv to pay for his services, and now it's merely a milva. She owes him money. So that's Mekadesh b'milva, Einu Mekudeshes. But what if he said, I will do this for you in the future, and then he did it for her, and that should be Mois Kiddushin. Or I'll help you get into the wagon. There it is Mekudeshes. So the problem is, why are these cases any different than the case in our Mishnah? I'm being Mekadesher with the value of a service that I'm going to provide for her in the future. The Brisa says it's good. Why does our Mishnah say it's not good? I'm sorry?
The last Mishnah where he actually wasn't giving her something, saying, "Master of a rich person."
Which everybody agrees. Right. The question is, why is he saying it over here is the question. Right. Gewaltig. So Zok the Gemara, if you want to learn that the Brisa we just quoted is also a case where he's giving her a Shava Pruta to do the Kiddushin, and these services are merely at Nai, you can't say that in the Brisa. Because the Brisa says, B'schar kamar, B'schar shir kafticha lechamor. I'm being mekadosh you with that schar, with that value. So you cannot say the Brisa is speaking with as a Shava Pruta. V'oid Tanya, we also learned, what if a woman says, Shevi mi b'tzafsa, sit with me, keep me company. There's a value to that. V'akadosh loch, and I will be mekudeshes to you. Or schoik lefanai, tell me a good joke, and that'll be the Kiddushin. Or rekoy lefanai, dance in front of me. Or asay kedimus azeh, build some type of structure. Rashi says Dimus' opinion. So the halacha is shaman. We have to assess the value of these services. Im yesh bo shava pruta. If these services have a value of a shava pruta, mikudeshes. V'mlavenu mikudeshes. So v'chitei mahachanami b'diyoyev lo shava pruta. If you want to say that these cases are also when it was accompanied with a shava pruta to be mekadesher, that doesn't make sense again, because v'hashaman oisoi ka'amar. Then why, if it's merely a tanai, why is there any need to assess the value of the tanai if the tanai is worth the shava pruta? It's not the mois kedushin. Elamai, it is the mois kedushin. Therefore, tiyuv to the Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish must be August Lagim. Because you have arrived from here that you can be mekadesh a woman with a melacha that you're planning to do for her in the future. Zok to Gemara, Amalach Rish Lakish, not a pushover. Hi Tana Bra Savar Eina L'Schiris El L'Besoif. The two Tanoim that we just quoted, who said B'schar She'er Kivcha L'Chamor works, or Schoit L'Fanai or Koi L'Fanai, if it's worth a Shavah Pruta, it's a good Kiddushin, that's because they hold Ein L'Schiris El L'Besoif, meaning when you do work for somebody, it could take multiple hours. When does the Chiyuv come for you to pay money? Zokt, Rishlakish, those brises hold, it only comes at the end. If it only comes at the end, then he could give that as Moish Kedushin. But V'tanu Didon Savar, the reason why Rish Lakish wants to learn Shad in our Mishnah, that he had to give her Shavah Pruta, is because our Tana holds Yesh no L'Schris Mitchila Vatzah. So if it's our Nasha Dabalach L'Shilton, it takes a certain amount of time to do that. And every second that I'm working for her, it's already incurring Chayv. So by the time I've amassed a Shavah Pruta, it's already a milva. So therefore it doesn't work. Frank Gemara, why would Rish Lakish learn that our Mishnah is speaking that it holds learn that our Mishnah holds like and say that you're actually being Mekadesh with the services of Dibra L'Shiltoin or the services of SM Chakapoil. So why did Rish Lakish feel that that's what our Mishnah holds? And therefore you have to have given her separately a Shavah Pruta. Amarava, Zukrava, it's very simple. Masnisin Kashise. The Lashon of her Mishnah seems to indicate that you had to have given separately a Shavah Pruta. Because in my area, the Tani Almanas, the Lashon of our Bryce is Harayat Mugdeshli Almanas. That sounds like a Tanai. Nisni B'schar, it should have used the same nusach as the Bryces that we quoted. If that's what our Mishnah would have said, Rish Lakish would have said, "If I don't have to give a pruta," and our Mishnah holds ein l'schus ela b'soif. But Vibal the Tana used the lashon of Amanas. It must be that the Tana is telling us, "Elishma mina kol Almanas heiche diyoivlo." If it's Almanas, it must be that that's just a Tanai, but there is separately a pruta for Kiddushin. So then Rish Lakish says, why would our Tana pick such a case with an Almanas and a Pruta for Kiddushin? It must be because our Tana holds Yesh no l'schir mitchila batzoit, and therefore it's impossible to be mekadesh a woman with any type of schirs of work that you do for her, because you never amassed a Shavah Pruta at once to be able to use it for Kesef Kiddushin. Because by the time you finish the work, most of what she owes you is already a milfa.
Clearly, Chazal didn't know what lawyers bill these days by the minute.
I'm sorry?
I think Chazal didn't realize how much lawyers would bill by the minute.
I hear. Okay. What if someone makes a t'nai, I'm being mekadesh you, Almanas, that when my father hears about it, he's going to want. So he's going to want could mean many different things. It could mean that he won't protest, or it could mean that he will agree. So we're going to have to see what it means sheyir tza'aba to come into place. So Amanash sheyir tza'aba rotza av mekudeshes. If the father wanted, it's mekudeshes. V'imlav in the mekudeshes. Simple. What about meisa'av? What if the father died before he was able to tell us if he wanted or not? Harezi mekudeshes. So from this line, it would be mashma that all rotza'av means if he's not moich, because if he dies, he can't be moich anymore. But if rotza'av means that he gave his agreement, he died without giving his agreement. So from the Reish of the Mishnah, the Gemara is going to be medayik that the Mishnah says meitzav harezi mekudeshes. It must mean that Amanash Yirtza'ab just means that he won't be moich. Meisa ben, what if the son died? We don't know if this woman is mekudeshes. Let's say he died, there's no children, and he has a brother. Would this woman be mechuyev in evil? So if it's meisa ben, malamdina avaloimer she'ena roitz. we tell the father to be dafka be moicha, and this way the Kiddushin will be bottled, and therefore she will not be mechuyev in yibum. Which means that the only way the father could be mevatel the shidduch is to protest. So if he doesn't say anything at all, it would be mekudeshes. My almanash sheyir abba. What does it mean almanash sheyir abba? Ilay ma'uba means ada omar abba in. The father has to say in. I want. He has to make a positive statement. Ema mitziyos. Let's look at the middle case of the Mishnah. Mesa av harezu mekudeshes. If the father died without protesting or without specifically expressing approval, she's mekudeshes. I va'loy omarin. He didn't say yes. Elot must be that the almanash sheyirtza abba that the Mishnah is saying is elo almanash sheyishtoik abba. It must be that all it means almanash sheyirtza abba is he should not, when he hears about the marriage, he should not protest, and therefore, if he died, he can no longer protest. Gewaltig. Ema sefer. Let's look at the sefer. Mesa ben malamdan is abba loimer she'enei roitza. You tell the father to say einei roitza. Amai, it's too late already. Vashasik. If he heard about the marriage and he was silent, you already have a Kiddushin. So if he later on protests, how does that help? The Kiddushin was already chal. So that's the problem that we have in our Mishnah. Ella, what we're going to have to say is Amar lo almanash shalai imcha. The Sefer must mean that it's a different case from the Reish. The Reish's case is almanash yishtoik abba, and therefore, if the father dies, there was a shtika, and it'll be a good Kiddushin. On the flip side, in the Sefer, we have to say that the Tanai that he made was almanash shalai yimcha. As long as he's not moicha, it's going to be a Kiddushin. And that machor doesn't have a time limit. It doesn't mean almanash that he's not moicha when he first hears about it. Almanash that even long term he's not moicha. So therefore, almanash shelo yimcha, which means very unusual that reisha b'chat time mitziyos v'sefer b'chat time. If you look at the Lashon Mishnah, it's going to be very weird because almanash yirtzaba at first means almanash yishtai. And therefore, also mekudeshes. If he was shoystik, mekudeshes v'mlav and mekudeshes meisa'av, which means he was shoystik or mekudeshes. Period. Now, without any introduction whatsoever, the Mishnah is changing the case, and now we're saying almanash yirtzaba means what he said is my father. It could be moich at any time, and I only want the Kiddushin if he's not moich. Then meisa ben malam l'shav l'mishnei roitza. So it's very difficult to learn that at this point in the Gemara. At this point in the Mishnah, the Tana is transitioning to a different case without announcing it. But that's what the Gemara has to learn in order to be able to make sense out of the Mishnah. So it's Reisha, B'chatayim, and Utziyasa, V'sefer B'chatayim. Let's see Rashi. Elamnash L'yim Chaba, Hach Sefer D'Katonim Alamdin, L'y Mesukma K'Reisha. You can't say it's the same case as the Reisha, B'Almanash Yishta. Elo, you have to say that the Tanai in the Sefer is B'Almanash L'yimcha. The Chalkama de Mochi, and no matter when he's moicha, even if it's a month later, he'll be able to uproot the marriage. He never said when the mecha has to be. If my father's not moicha, doesn't mean he has to be moicha to destroy the marriage the first time he hears about it. Even if a year later, he always has the option to be moicha. Therefore, if the son dies, you'll tell the father to be moicha at that point. The ratio, you can't say that's the case of the ratio, that the father has to be moich in order to destroy the Kiddushin. What do you mean rotza'af? If the Tanai is any time in the future, the father can be moich. So what do you mean rotza'af? Rotza'af means rotza'af today, but tomorrow he can still be moich. Then can Kiddushin lo'ila. You must learn. Almanasha yishtek abba. The ratio is almanasha yishtek abba. Shosak, if he was shosak, arranged mekudeshes. Lo shosak elamichala alter ein mekudeshes. That's the ratio. And now, without any notice whatsoever, the Tana transitions to a new case. V'imamur almanasha lo yimcha abba. But if the Tanai was different, the Tanai was that my father, the Kiddushin is only good Kiddushin as long as my father is not moicha, and there's no time limit to when my father can be moicha. Then Mesa Ab Achalei Micha. If the father died before he was Moicha, Harayim Mukudeshes. I will call you Mei Chayov Einam Kedushin. But it won't be a Kedushin all of his life because until he dies without being Moicha, it won't be a Kedushin. Mesa Ben Malam. Frek the Gemara. Talk to Gemara. So you see from here, Shema Minam Rabbi Yana. So the Gemara asks, Reisha b'chataimo, u'mitziasa v'seva b'chataimo? Yes, that's exactly what you're going to have to learn. But the fact that Rabbi Yanai was happy to make our Mishnah so difficult that it's talking about two different cases, and just to review, Rashi says differently from what I said. So in other words, I said the wrong shot. Rashi says that the first case, Amanasha Yirtza Abba, Rotza Ab Mekudeshes, Vimlav Ein Mekudeshes, that was Shtika. If Amanata, my father, is Shoisik, the first time he hears about it, then it will be Mekudeshes. So Rotzaf, if he Shoisik when he hears about it, Mekudeshes, Vimlav Ein Mekudeshes. Now we're talking about, at this point of Mesa Avrash, we're already transitioning to him saying that if my father's Moich, so if my father could be Moich at any time, it breaks the Kiddushin. Mesa Av, once the father dies, so he can no longer be Moicha, Harenzim Mukudeshes, then it'll be Mukudeshes. But Mesa Ben, Belamdin Av, Loimer Shena Reitza. So the transition isn't by Mesa Ben. The transition is before Mesa Av. So up until Mesa Av, the first part of the Mishnah is speaking about, he's just saying if my father shows it when he first hears about it, then it will be Mukudeshes. But when we start Mesa Av, it's a different Tnai. The Tnai is, if my father is not Moicha, my father has unlimited time to be Moicha. So therefore, the Kiddushin won't be permanent until the father dies, and he can no longer be Moicha. So we're transitioning the case without any announcement. It's a big doich. And Rabbi Yanai is satisfied with that. Rabbi Yanai said, yeah, that's what we do. So Shema Minam Rabbi Yanai, Dachkinon umakminon masnisim b'treitayno v'aliba d'chatan. V'loi mukminon b'treitanoyu b'chatan. Really, there was another option to explain the Pshat in the Mishnah. You could have said that he stam said, Al-Nashi Yirtzapa, and it's a machloikis between the Reish and the Seifa, what that means. Does Al-Nashi Yirtzapa mean at the first moment that he hears about it, he's not Moicha? Or does Al-Nashi Yirtzapa mean he can be Moicha forever? And then we could have said that the whole Mishnah is speaking about the same halacha, but the same case, and it's merely a machloikis what those words mean. But Rabbi Yanai didn't say that. Rabbi Yanai said, I would rather say that there's no machloikis in the Mishnah, but it's speaking about two different cases. So you see, he holds that's the better way to fartaicha Mishnah. As Rashi says, look me, to spell it ein, and we'll say there's a machloikis between the Reish of the Mishnah and the Seif of the Mishnah. And the machloikis is, what does Almanashi Yirtzaba mean? Tana the Reish Saber Loshen Shtiko. The Tana the Reish holds as long as when he first hears about it, he's quiet, he accepts it, it'll be a good Kiddushin. The Chivin just sasak, follow Kiddushin miyad. The Kiddushin fall right away. The Tana the Seifa Saber Loshen Lo Yimchu, the Einam Kiddushin Achiyamas. So to Gemara.
Well, either way, something is missing in the Mishnah.
Either way, either the Mishnah is not announcing that there's another Manda Amar here, or the Mishnah is not announcing that it's a different case. So Rabbi Yanai prefers to say that it's the same Tana, but it's a different case. Rabbi Yosy bar Abi Amar, no, let's say it's one case. Umay almanash yirtza abba. What does almanash yirtza abba mean? Almanash shalayim abba mikan vat shloshim yoyim. Maybe it means almanash that my father shouldn't be moicha by kan vat shloshim yoyim. Therefore, meis or av, it's mikudeshes because he can no longer be moicha for 30 days. And meis abed, before 30 days, you tell the father to be moicha before the 30 days. So let's see Rashi. Umay almanash yirtza almanash shalayimcha which covers man l'machal asay. The whole Mishnah speaking where there was a time limit given to the father to be able to be moicha. If 30 days passed and the father wasn't moicha, so he can no longer be moicha, harayzim mekudesh. Loy rata. What does loy rata mean? Shamicha toich shloishim. The father protested within 30 days. There ain't a mekudesh. Meita toich shloishim. If the father died within 30 days and he was not moicha during that period, mekudeshes. The amrinon su man mochi. Who's going to be moicha? Meita ben toich shloishim. In order to Void the Kiddushin, malam to the Sa'av, the place. Beautiful. So that's also a little schwer because it's putting a 30-day time limit. That's also not before in the Mishnah.
How to say the story from the Aluch is much easier than Shtukan.
Yeah. Here we have a genius of a fellow. Kidashti is biti. I was makabel kedushin for my daughter, but I don't know who I was makabel kedushin from. Come to Rai, she's she's also to everybody in the world because she could possibly be mekudeshes to anybody in the world. To who? Right. And someone comes along. I was mekadesh. So the Allah is Neman, he's believed. She's a huge chiddush. He should be believed to be mad to her, to everybody else. He should be believed that if he gives her a get, she's mutter to the villa. Maybe it wasn't, right? So the Gemara is going to analyze. What happened if two people come along? Then Shneim Noisten get. They both have to give a get. But the Imratzu Echad Noisten get Vechet Kindness. One can give a get, and the other one could be kindness. So you believe him that he was married to her. And there's two people, you'll believe him that he was married to her. Correct. Rav said, when it says in the Mishnah, we don't let him marry her. It's Neman Litin get. We believe him that we'll let him give a get to be mad to her, but we're not going to let him take her. We're going to get there. Neman Litin get, because if he's giving a get, basically he thinks she's mutter to the ganze Welt. He wouldn't be machshel the ganze Welt if it wasn't true, because he has no benefit from it. So al karchach, we believe him to give a get, to say that he was the Baal. If he's giving a get, he's not marrying her. But v'loy loy, but the Einam and Lichnois, we don't believe him that we let him marry her, because maybe he's lying and he's saying that he married her because he wants to be with her, but not because he was actually the one who was makadosh. So he's only Naman because of the svara of Einadim Chaytei v'loy loy. Okay. Rabasi Amar, Af Naman Lichnois. We believe him even to marry her. Zokt Rashi, Amarav Hadatan Ba'echad B'Mani Kiddushin. It's only Naman Litin get Kamar. The Naman. We trust him. Shukitcha v'gita get because She'einadim Chaytei b'davar she'einin henemi men. Lahat Eshes Yishchina. He's not going to live with her. Someone else is going to live with her. So Avazoy is believed because he's not going to do an aver to be mashal other people. But Rav Asi said, Af Naman Lichnois, as Rashi Lechotzef Lemeimar Lefnei Av Shekibul HaKedushin. The reason why we believe him is because he wouldn't dare lie to the father in his face and say, I was the one who was the Kedushin. Lechotzef Lemeimar Lefnei Av Shekibul HaKedushin Anihu. You know why? The mere system of Makrishli. The father might say, I know for sure it wasn't you. He's taking a big chance by saying I was the one. Because the father could say, no, I don't remember who it was, but I definitely know it wasn't you. So therefore you could believe him because the fact that he had the guts to come forward, say it was me, gives him an amos. But Ravasi is moida by meris niskadashti, if not the father, but the lady herself was a gedola, and she was makabel kedushin for herself. The eini yodas leminis kadashti. But I don't know who I was makabel kedushin from. There, even Abasi agrees, she'ein neman lichnos. And we're going to have to see why. What's the difference if we're dealing with her or if we're dealing with her father? She can also say, no, I know it wasn't you. So the Gemara is going to explain. Tonight we learned, Rotzu if they wanted, and this is our Mishnah, Echad Noisen get, Vechad Kindness. So you see clearly, one of the people is Neman to say, I married her, and he can be kindness. To the Rav. So isn't this a Rai to Rabasi, a Rai against Rav? Because in the Sefer where one said, when two people said, I married her, we allow one to give a get and one to be kindness. If we're letting him be kindness, Klor, we have to believe him that he married her. So Rav holds, you don't believe him that he married her. He's only Neman to give a get. So Rav, shiny Hosam, when there's two people who are claiming that this is my wife, there's a bigger nemonos. Even the Ika Akar Bahadei, since there's somebody else contradicting him and saying, I was the one who married him, it's two saying mirsis. There he'd be more afraid to lie and marry her. Therefore, we trust him. So Rashi, even the Ika Akar Bahadei, Shoimar Nikidashtia, there's another man claiming that He was the one who married her.
Which one is that? He chooses kindness.
So let's see Rashi. Mirsus Meikara. Now he's afraid that he's being contradicted. So when he's saying I married her, he's afraid Shema Yakir Ha'ab Shechaver Kidsha V'loyu. Now he's really afraid to come forward and said that he married her because the father might say no. It was Reuben. It wasn't Shimon. But Haikushta Omar, and the guy who the guy who is giving the get to the truth. The other guy who's lying, I'm going to say, I really married her. You know why he's giving the get? You know why he was asking to give the get, even though he claimed he married her and not me? Because he knows he's lying. That's why he's giving the get. I really married her.
One of them came and said, I'll give a get. And
They both came and said,
it's us.
And the one,
married.
right, he won't, but the one guy said, I'll give a get. So if one guy said, I'll give a get, then we let him.
Two people came to say that.
One of
them has to give a get, and one
no, it says Shnei. No, it says Shnei nice thing. But if one's asking to give a get, we let the other guy be kindness, right? The Mishnah says Shnei nice thing get, but Vimratzu, if they decide that I'll give a get and you'll be kindness, kindness. Why? Because we say that this guy must have married her because he's really putting himself out there, even though he's being contradicted and challenged. He's still maintaining that this is his wife. And the fact that the other guy also said it, you see he's probably lying. V'haraya, he was masking to give a get. If he was so sure that he married her, why would he be masking to give a get? And masking because he knows he's lying.
Maybe the father said, who was my daughter? And both
so that's the difference. So that's the difference. That's the difference between if only one person comes along, where he's not meant to be kindness, versus if two people came along, that he is meant to be kindness, because whenever someone's claiming that this is his wife and he's being contradicted, he has a greater naimanos because he's being contradicted. Chaim, your case is not a case where I was makabel Kiddushin for my daughter that I don't know to who. It means originally
he said something.
That would be a Kiddushin Sheni Labia, and there wouldn't be a good Kiddushin at all. There had to be at one point that he knew who he accepted Kiddushin from. Otherwise, it's a Kiddushin Sheni Labia. So we have a right to Ravasi that you are Nemon even to marry her. Because it says as follows in the Brisa. Kidashti is biti, but I don't know to who I was Makadasher. And Reuben comes along and says, I was Makadasher. Af Nemon Lichnois, he's even believed to be kindness. Konsa, what if he married her? He took her in. And then afterwards, he got into trouble. And now someone's coming along to claim that, no, she's really married to me, and you're married to an Esha Shit. So the law is, loy kol heimenu lo oisra olav. Someone coming after he took her in, we actually had this concept before. If someone's already married to a woman, no one is nemon to come and break up that marriage. Loy kol heimenu lo oisra. However, ha'isha shamin is kedashti. And this is going back, we still didn't explain it. Why is it worse if it's the lady herself who's Makabal Kiddushin? There, nobody's demo. Why not? There it's Einam and Lichtis. Why? So here the Brisa tells us why. She will have Rachmanis on him. That's how it works. A woman is softer, and she'll have Rachmanis, and even though she knows he might be lying, she will cover for him. She will cover for him, and therefore, he doesn't have an amonis. And I guess he knows she'll cover for him, so he's more brazen to lie. Let's see Rashi. Neman lichnois. If it's the father who was makabel Kiddushin, the mirsus. There, someone's afraid to come and make a claim that it was me. The avade lo yechpal. If you're wrong and you're lying, the fathers are going to have no rachmanis. You want to make my daughter into a zoynik to brech in the bainim. Avalo isha shekibla Kiddushin. But if a woman's makabel Kiddushin for herself, ve'en yadas mimi, and she doesn't remember who it was, uve'echad loy mirsus, a guy's going to come and lie, and he won't be afraid of getting caught in a lie. The yodeya who he knows the psyche of a woman, shetehei mechape alav, she'll have rachmanas on him. At least I found some man who claims he's my husband. I want him. This is srata boy. She'll want him. She'll want him, even though maybe he wasn't the right one. But we're afraid that she'll want him anyway. V'sachish es kol haba loimer oidaniu. And she herself will contradict. If anybody says it's me, she'll say, no, it's not. It's the first guy, even though it's not true. So therefore, there's no mirsis, and therefore there's no reason to give this claimant any type of namamas. Gewalt. So Iboil, Ma'u liskol al yod. The says, Ma'u liskol al yod shala'ab. The father said that she's married, and we don't know who she's married to. So if she's mezana with somebody, she would be she a naira hamurasa who's chayiv skila, because the father said that she was married. Let's see Rashi. Ma'u liskol al yod shala'ab. Claimer al piv. Imamar kidash biti. If he said, I was Makabal Kiddushin for my daughter, the Eida Kiddushin ain't going Lefanenu, and we don't have Eida Kiddushin here. So we only know that she's an Eishish Ish, a Naira Hamurata, based on the testimony of the father. And then Vizinsa. Ma'u lachzika al piv kidinaya murasa l'soiku. We're marking, we don't want to marry anybody, but would be believe the father died that she would even have the cheskas muresas and she would get skila. Rav Amar ain't cycling. Rav holds no. We don't. The father doesn't have the most to give her skila. Rabbi Ashi Amar cycling. Rabbi Ashi said no. Even believe the father, and you would give her skila. Rav Amar ain't cycling. Ki hamnei rachman la'av. Where did the father give the? To what extent did the father give the? Did the Torah give the father namanos? Is liisura to answer her? The kala why hamnei v'zoivait to have her killed. They didn't give the father such a stark namanos. Rabbi Ashi Amar cycling. The chula milta hamnei rachman la'av. There's an namanos given to the father for everything. Zok Rashi, where do you see Bechlal the Torah gives any namanos to the father? Where do you get that from? Zok Rashi, in the parsha of Gittin says a spiti of Mr. Shemra, there's a spiti in the Sati Lishazeh. So he's never to say that I married my daughter. Lisur, that's only Loishal Kaloilam. But for Skila Zok Rav, they didn't give namanos. Ravasi holds no, a spiti in the Sati Lishazeh, he has a full namanos even to give her skila. Omer Basi, Umaydina. I agree with you. But if she said on herself that I was Makabal Kiddushin, she'ain cycle. There you wouldn't give her skila. Zok Rashi. So she said I was Makabal Kiddushin, and then she was Mizana. She'ain cycle oisal pia. Even though we would give her skila based on her father saying she was Mekudeshes, we would not give her skila based on she herself agreeing that she's Mekudeshes. Even though she herself gave herself a chazaka of an arusa, she said this kadashti. Nevertheless, we won't kill her. The time of Mefarish also, the Gemara is going to explain it shortly. Amar Basi, Hani Shmaitz Didi Marav Sanigri. We hear that svara. My svara breaks down the buildings. It's such a difficult thing to understand. How is it that she herself doesn't have an amonus to get herself killed, and her father should have an amonus? Rashi Marav Sanigri. Mishabris Gagin Baliyos. This will break the rooftops. It's so difficult to hear this seemingly contradictory psak. And why is it so difficult? Because hashta uma b'mokim madich b'mokim shembalichnois kindness madich in a case where if someone said ani kidashtia, Rabasi says, or Martinem and Lichnas, Rabasi holds that if someone came along and told the father, I was the one, you believe him. You see where Shtick will make, because if the father said she's Mekudeshes, we let some guy marry her, right? If we're so sure that she's an Eishes, it would be difficult to accept his testimony that it was him. But we're Mekel, we trust him. And we let him marry her. In other words, we're not so sure that she's usher. That's why we're letting him marry her. So in such a case, where the father is a shvacher and amonus that she's an Eishes, we trust some guy who comes along without any edim, and he says that I married her, and we let him marry her. Nevertheless, we trust the father to give this woman skila. So therefore, when she herself said I was Makabal Kiddushin, where there's such an amonus of an Eishes that we don't trust anybody to say I was the one who married her. Ain't it cycling? So there's a much bigger Eishes there. We don't even let anybody marry her. Surely that should be Mechayiv Skila. So it's exactly the opposite of what Ravasi is paskening, because Ravasi is paskening that she's not Chayiv Skila by herself. Zokno Velohi La'av Hamnei Rachmana. There's a special pasuk that says it's beating the Sati. The Torah gave a nemanis to the father. The Torah never gave a nemanis to the father. As Rashi says, Lav hemne hilcha soitlin, l'didal hemna vein soitlin. Ulini din nefashos, so Rashi. When it comes to din nefashos, lo katlina mishum chashash. We don't kill somebody because of chashash. Nisura, like I'll be answering her. There's a completely different reason why we don't let him marry her if he claims usus. The shavil and chaticha disura, which is what Chaim said earlier. She's making herself into a shtik iser by saying that she's a neshus. The high loy mirsis Yener, who's coming along to say that I was the one who married her, cannot be trusted because he's not afraid to lie. Because she will cover for him. But Lagabi Av Mirsis, but Lagabi the father, anyone is going to be afraid to claim falsely that I married her because the father is going to throw him to the wolves. Let's see the Gemara right.
But when the father said that he was Makabel Kiddushin and he says I did it, he's just complimenting what the father said. He's not contradicting.
No, because she's a chmusik ishish, and you want to say like I mean she's not. Zok the Gemara right. Reb Chisda Amar echad zeh v'echad zeh inside. Even for the father, the father said she's Mekudesha, she would not give her skila. But Reb Chisda is following Yeshita that he says elsewhere. Dom Reb Chisda. B'nizeh ben teisha shonim v'yom echad. Or b'tizu bas gimel shonim v'yom echad. What if he said, my son is 9 years old, which means he's royal labia. And if we have Adam that say that he was boil a lady who's also to him, she would be mechuyev mitzvah because of that. Or if he said biti zubas gimel shon, if he said that my daughter is 3 years old and someone was mizana with her who was also to marry with her, and there's Adam who see that. Weiter, neman lekarbon, he's believed only to be mechayev the person to bring a carbon if it was b'shoigim. Avaloy lemakas v'loy la'inch, but not to give him malchus and not that he should be mechuyev misa. Why? Because that's Reb Chisda Shita is he does not have an amonus legabi misa. The father does not have an amonus legabi misa. Let's see Rashi what this case of ben teshonim is, because this is very much under dispute as you see in Tosfos, long Tosfos. Ben teshonim biyase bia, his bia is a bia lechayev achas min arayis misa the carbon v'chein ketana bas gimel biyase bia lechayev godol habala the erval of the misa. It would be mechayev misa and the carbon. That's im yesh edim shibas gimel. V'chein if you have edim that katnu ben teshonim. But what if we only know that this child is 9 years old and his bia is a bia, or we only know that this girl was 3 years old and her bia is a bia? Al pia av, then nemanu l'karbon l'shagi. So it's edim that are saying testimony on this nose. He's just saying, verifying the age of the child during this. So he's believed to be mechayiv the makarbon of aloy l'makos v'loy anish misa in ba'alav b'mezid. Gewaltig. So it's Reb Chisda who holds that the father does not have an amonis legabe oinchim.
By these stories, do they go together? Make him fragen the tate in Bezdin wie alt is and then.
So I want you to hold on to that because that's going to be very negative Tosfos. Zok the Martani Kavasid Reb Chisda b'nizeh ben Yud Gimel Shana v'yoyim echad or biti zu bas Yud Gimel Shana v'yoyim echad. The halach is neman l'nedarim. He's neman to say that her nedarim are nedarim, or his nedarim are nedarim, or his charamim are charamim, ulakteshos, ulaerchen, avaloy lamakas, ulainchin. The father does not have an amonis on the age of a child, like have a makas and einchin. So Tosfos' problem is how do you ever give anybody makas or einchin for doing the vera? Who else is going to know how old the child is? If you can't trust the father, so how could you ever? Who are you going to trust? And how old is this? If the father who has a shtickle amonis does not believe, so you could never punish anybody for anything. That she's old enough. What? Okay, so let's see what Tosfos says. You're saying. The Myri Shehevi Bay Cyrus. Now, the fact that he's only 13 is not enough. He also had to have brought Bay Cyrus. So Rashi says that over here. I didn't learn inside. I should have. Ben Yud Gimel Bashud Beis Nedarim Neder Bektation Hektish Ulin Oinchim shall call mitzvahs Imuviu Shtei Cyrus Simenu. If someone brought 2 Cyrus and they're an adult, they're 13 or 12, that's a good siman. Varayim Gedolim L'Chol Daf. Avol Koydem L'Chein But before they're adults and before they bring simonim, any do neither benediction hektish. The Meviu Shtei Cyrus, even if they brought Shtei Cyrus, if we don't know that they're yet 12 or 13, maybe it's Tamashuma, it's not a real simon because they're too young. Therefore, even if they have Shtei Cyrus, we can't be managed because maybe they're not adults. So let's see. Touches. Here's because the Mari Shevi Bay Cyrus. We still have to verify the age. If someone doesn't have Cyrus, we only say they're adult when their after life is over, which is 36. Then the Rav Shnoisa. The Simonim below Shanim, which is relevant to us, if a child only has Simonim, but we can't verify that they're of age. They have Alpika and Ka'amar Hacha. Gemara. Nevertheless, the Gemara says over here, the Lamakis Va'anchin, Einoy Neman, the father is not Neman, Pirish, the Lamakis, Hecha the Lohisru boy. Ula Einchin. So why would someone get Makis? He would get Makis if the Edom saw that he was Mizana. But they didn't warn him, then he would get Makis. Or Ula Einchin, Hecha the Hisru boy. It could be a Chiv Mitzvah involved. The kosher fact toisus, Dim Kain, Kol Hanoshim, Habois Lefanenu, Lachloitz. Anytime a woman wants to come to do chalitza, how could you allow her to do chalitza? Maybe the man doing chalitza is not yet an adult. Even if we can verify that this person doing the chalitza has simonim, we don't know how old they are. The Shema Yavim Cup. Maybe the Yavim is not 13 years old yet. The Ishkshiv Parsha, the Mashma Lekot. Any man who's mizana, how could you kill them because they were ever in the riots? Even if they have Cyrus, we don't know their age. So how can you ever give somebody misa for riots?
Depends which age.
So the Ika Riboy Cyrus, if it's not just two Cyrus, he has a whole bunch of hair. Then samchinin aribu sayrois the ein darkem lovi koidim yud. That's one way. Idami mem gedolim b'koima. What if they look big? They look mature. Then yesh lismach al simonim b'koima va'afilu ein lakim beisayros. What's the case over here? Because over here we needed the father. Why do we need the father? If it's ribu sayrois, we don't need the father. So where is it relevant that you need the father to say he's an adult? Hachamari shaloi hevi rak beisayros. And you have someone who did an Aveir, he has to Cyrus, but we're not sure if he's 13 or not. So here you need the father. The Lamakas Vanchin ain't in him. Oit Pirish Rishit Acheres, the Bamakim Simonim ain't Sarach Edushnai. When you have Simonim, you don't need Edus. You don't need to know how old he is. If Simonim are alone, good enough. If that's the case, so over here in our Gemara, what namanos do we need from the father? If he has simonim, it's good enough. What happened was, we're not taking a nedus for right now. The father comes and says, 2 years ago, when my son was 13, he ate chaylev. Or he bought or he's bought an erva. We can't check now because he's saying edus about something that occurred maybe 2 years ago. We can't verify anything. So therefore, we need the father at least to verify that he's an adult. So the nemanis that our Gemara says is on Simonim. I'm sorry, it's on Shonim. But Lamaisa tells us in this chat holds either Shonim or Simonim would be Mechayivim, and the fathers believed on either one. Either to say that he was old enough at the time that he is going to be Mechayiv, or that he had Simonim at the time. Now there's Cyrus. Vod lechashiv Simonim. Hakim doesn't list off that he's Neman for Simonim. It said Shonim, but the father's Neman for either. So we'll stop here, Bez Hashem. I'll get in the Chaydish, and we'll be Mamashach tomorrow.
The Maas is not Neman for the store that he ate Chaylev, but he's only Neman for the Shul, because the father's supposed to lie.